Cantebury, New Zealand. Pegasus Bay with owner Ivan Donaldson. One of their fabulous Pinot Noir vineyards. Just been tasting their wines. The Pinot Noirs have the beauty and depth of Burgundy, but this purity of New Zealand fruits, fabulous acidity and backbone, very structured wines. You've been making wines here for almost 3 decades or more.
Well, yes, the very first ones we made were back in the 70s in our previous vineyard, and we came here just over 25 years ago to this site.
And what is it? I mean, it's a recent history, but it's a history you've done so much in such a short time compared to, let's say, Europe.
Well, I think we've cheated a bit. We've learnt lessons off the Europeans. We still admire their wines, and very much so. So we're always looking at Europe, tasting the wines, and we have a lot of French people come here and do vintage, young French winemakers, and of course our team have been over there a lot too, doing vintages.
So Ivan, describe to me, what's the style of New Zealand wine, particularly wine from your region? How would you describe it?
I think it's very fruit driven, I have to say, and I think you have to really know how to tame that fruit, and it's basically because of the hang time that you have your fruit on the vines.
Because it's so long.
It is long compared to such a temperate climate compared with classical grape growing regions in Europe. I mean, we have our frosts, we have our really hot days, but it's a maritime climate, and therefore you have this long hang time, and the flavouring components in grapes are glycolysated. That means they're attached to glucose, and the glucose develops first, so they come later, and because of that hang time, our wines tend to be very flavourful, and so you have to, as I say, learn that you don't want your wine just to be a bowl of fruit juice. You have to have structure in them and all those other things, and I think that structure is there. You've got to tease it out, but I think that the wines from this particular region have a lot of flavour, as well as the structure.
That's what I like. They have tension. There's tannin and acidity and beautiful fruit. But the fruit comes at the end rather at the front of the wine. Is that something unique to Canterbury then?
I think it comes from having a long palate, and by a long palate I don't just mean a palate that's drawn out by either acidity or tannins. It's a palate that has fruit length in it as well, and I think that is a characteristic of wines from this region.
So right now, I heard there might be a frost. People are a bit worried. At least you have wind now, so there's no problem. And that's something about New Zealand. It's sort of extreme growing conditions. You have to deal with rain, frost, intense sunlight. It's sort of extreme. Maybe that's why you make special wines.
Well, I think that if you look at the structures here, you can see that we get a lot of wind. In Europe, we go and see vineyards, and they have little stakes in them, and there's no way they would stand up here. They would just get blown over. New Zealand's in the, I won't say the middle, but it's sited in the biggest ocean in the world. It's windy. It's not like a continent where you've got mountains and things to break. So all of New Zealand is windy. And I think that the climate, as well as the terroir, produces the wines that come from here. I mean, this vineyard in particular, this is the moraine of an Ice Age glacier that came through here. The hills on each side were thrust out of the ocean, so that they're all limestone bearing. This is one of the few regions in New Zealand that has both limestone in the soil, and also this other minerality which comes from the broken down material that was deposited here by this glacier, which retreated at the end of the last ice age. And this that adds, certainly in the white wines particularly, a minerality which gives tension to the wines, I believe.
Well, thank you very much for the visit. It was a great tasting, and now to be in the vineyards, really a great experience.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. What a story! Amazing vineyards. All over the world, grew up in the States. I mean, what are you doing here? And how did you come up with the idea of planting 1,200 vines per hectare, Pinot Noir, following your dream? Tell me your story.
Well, I came on to New Zealand with Mike. Plant 12,000 vines per hectare, and that we could manage this ourselves and get into it and express our site and to have a voice that was different. So
But why not do it in California? Why not all the way around the world?
New Zealand's a beautiful place. Cantebury is a beautiful region, and I didn't want to be there anymore. It was time to move on, break ground, try something different. Yeah, it's been a dream come true. It's blood, sweat, and tears sometimes, but it feels good. It feels right, and working biodynamically is probably the best decision we made along the way. Besides being close planted, it's not easy. It's hard work. It's labor intensive. As you can see, 12,000 vines per hectare, low fruit require 6 to 8 bunches per vine on Pinot Noir. North facing, you get a lot of wind here in Canterbury, but we've got our eastern slopes as well.
Yeah, I couldn't tell there's not much wind. Apparently, this isn't a very windy day.
This isn't a windy. Well, we've had a pretty windy spring, but this is doable. Yeah.
And tell me about, how would you describe your style of Pinot, for example, if you compared it to California Central Coast or, let's say, Russian River or something like that?
Ooh, that's a good question. Actually, the way I like to think about the way we grow Pinot and the way we make Pinot to express the site, if you think of the reason that we're here, clay limestone, I always think of limestone being the calcium, and if you think of the human body, the bone, that's our calcium, and you think of the clay being the iron and the flesh and the blood that surrounds our bones, and that's very much why we ended up at Pyramid Valley, because you have that mix. So trying to focus on wines that you can age, also wines that, of course, express site. The work that we do mostly everything by hand. We have machines that do fit down the rows, but we handy stem our fruit, we foot crush, we foot plunge, we don't use any temperature control in the winery at all, and we collect yeast in the vineyard as well. So 2 weeks before harvest, we go out and we get our starter yeast and pick our fruit, put it in a bucket, let that ferment, put it in a bottle, and then as the fruit comes in after ambient soak, then we hit it with the yeast that were created in the vineyard that year. So that's an expression, I think, of the site as well, is that seasonal yeast and the difference in fermentation that you get from year to year.
Let's go taste some wines.
Yeah, great.